Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Roger Peterson and today I'm going to have a conversation with Gabriel Brakha. Now Gabriel is an expert in health insurance, both in US policies and international policies, and he's got over 20 years experience consulting about healthcare insurance coverage. He's based out of the state of Florida, and we're going to sit down and just have a conversation with Gabriel about health insurance. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about Costa Rica in general, residency, and life in general in Costa Rica. So let's get started. Welcome to the interview, Gabriel, and thank you so much for your time to share some information with our viewers regarding insurance, health insurance, medical insurance for expats that are wanting to live outside of the United States. This is a very important topic because the first decision that a lot of expats make when they're going to move abroad is, okay, I'm moving abroad, but how am I going to be covered with medical insurance? So thank you so much for being here and sharing any information you have in this regard.
Thank you so much, Roger. I appreciate this opportunity to share some information. Thank you, Roger.
So, Gabriel, let's start off first with, as I mentioned, so we have, let's say, an expat that decides, hey, I'm going to move to Costa Rica. What should they be aware of as far as medical coverage when traveling or moving permanently to Costa Rica, let's say? What would you recommend?
Well, the best thing to do before going to Costa Rica is to talk to a broker. It can be me or somebody else. And the reason I'm saying that is because most of the people who are retiring and moving to this beautiful Costa Rica country in Central America is to check their insurances in the US and to check their insurances in Costa Rica. If they have an insurance in the US, like Medicare, they should probably leave it as it is.
Okay.
But Medicare does not cover anything overseas. It says that it covers some of the plans that are supplements. They say it's covered $50,000 lifetime. But being a person that also offers Medicare in the US, it doesn't work well. And it's better to have an insurance in Costa Rica that covers for expat. One of the carriers we represent, obviously, it's a company that have no age limit. You can come to the Costa Rica, you can be 80, 90, 95 years old even 99, and you can apply for insurance. Those insurances covers you for hospital, for doctor visits, for air ambulance, which is very important because if you decide to go to some island in the Caribbean or even in Central America, San Andres, which is another island of Colombia, you need to be covered well because if you're not covered for air ambulance, you end up paying probably between $50 to $200,000 for this adventure. So we guide you, and we also custom made a plan because those plans are custom made as well.
Well, yeah, that's a great topic because yes, many people that do move to Costa Rica, a lot of the baby boomers that are retiring, that are moving here under the retirement visa, pensionados, they have Medicare. But you made an excellent point. If something happens to them, they need to get back to the U.S. to be able to get into a hospital that will take their Medicare because in Costa Rica, the local private hospitals will not take Medicare. So it's a great point. Yeah, I wasn't aware that they would take you at any age, which is a very big plus, obviously, because that's a big concern for everybody is, can I get into this program? So can you talk a little bit more specifics about that program? For example, if we take somebody, let's take an example of somebody who's, let's say, 65 years old, or let's say 66, they already have Medicare, and they want to get into this insurance. What would it cover? How would they sign up with you? And what are like estimated costs of that kind of coverage?
If a person of 65 is interested in insurance, we have to ask them what what exactly they need from the insurance.
Okay.
And the reason I mentioned custom made because this is the key issue when you buy insurance. Is the only we represent the carrier that they are the only one who do custom made,
Okay.
and that relates to pricing. So if a person comes and we guide them, you can have only hospital, or
Mhm.
you can have hospital and dental and emergency evacuation and checkup. So you can tick off or tick on the one that you want. If, for instance, you decide to do only hospitalization without doctor visits and you pay out of pocket, it can be interesting because you save 50% of the premium. But this is the decision for the prospect or the consumer to make if he wants to do that.
Okay.
In my opinion, it's worth it because I don't know how are the prices of private doctors in Costa Rica, but I'm sure that in the US, which are the most expensive fees in the world, it's better sometimes to have a hospitalization only and then deal with that. And remember that this hospital plan does not cover only Costa Rica. It covers Panama, it covers Germany, it covers Japan, it covers you anywhere in the world. So you can also make it global. It's not you can make it global, it's actually global.
Okay.
And it's a great opportunity if the person wants to travel overseas. It doesn't even have to buy travel insurance because you mentioned that earlier.
That's a great point because there's a big movement right now called slow travel, right? Where people want to come to Costa Rica, spend 3 months, and they want to go to Portugal and spend 3 months, and they want to go to Asia, spend 3 months. So this policy that you're talking about would basically go along with them in all these countries where they're traveling to without having to worry about switching policy if I'm not covered in this country. So that's a very good point that you're making there, and it sounds like it's a very flexible policy to allow an expat to be able to travel and be sure he's covered.
It is very flexible, but believe it or not, we spoke only about the Medicare people. There are a lot of young people that actually are working overseas and even retiring at the age of 40.
Yeah.
So if you have situation like that, that they come to your office and they want your services of immigration in Costa Rica and they're in the 40s and they're Americans, these international insurance can cover them in the US and Costa Rica because they're not eligible for Medicare. So basically, they're covered all over the world, including the US, which is a great, great thing. And people at least have a peace of mind that they have not only the global international coverage, but it also includes the US.
Thank you for clarifying that point because yes, you're absolutely right. I mean, more and more we have a lot of people that are working remotely in Costa Rica that have set up their own businesses remotely that are down in the beaches, and you're absolutely correct. They're younger, 40, 50-year old, and this would be an excellent opportunity for them to also have coverage that travels along with them wherever they move related to their work because we're seeing a lot of more of that nomadic movement, a lot of more people, that are able to work overseas. And we get asked in our office constantly, people that want to move down here and work remotely from Costa Rica, and most of those are certainly younger than the boomers. So yeah, great point. Thank you for mentioning that.
No, my pleasure. And the plans also includes telehealth, which is something that is very important to the insurance carriers because what's happening today is that people not only don't feel like going to a doctor for any circumstance, but they also want to consult the doctor for mental health reasons. And the insurance carriers are taking the mental health component very, very seriously. It looks like there's more and more cases of that uh, through all the countries, especially among younger people that going through a lot of stress and competition and college and work. So this also is included in the insurance plan or policy as well.
Okay. And then, so if somebody wanted to, sit down with you, they would just contact you, and I'll leave your contact information in the description to this video, so people can reach out to you directly, and therefore they can sit down with you according to their personal needs, and then you would sit down and evaluate their requirements. I imagine that's the way you would do the intake, right?
Absolutely, that's what we do. We do an evaluation of each person There is a very light underwriting, and we go from there. And these people need some help. Fortunately, we have very good connections with the carrier. So if there is an issue that needs to be resolved with the hospital, I help them. We never had issues, by the way, because usually the insurance carrier wants to keep their reputation of paying the claims in a timely fashion and not thinking about it like other smaller carriers that they used to do because their reserves are not as big and they cannot pay $100,000 or $200,000. So that's why I like to work with top notch or well-known brand names.
You're absolutely right, because on my end of it, from the legal side, I do see where some insurance companies can, kind of drag their feet and make it difficult for you to file claims, and they make you jump through more hoops. So yeah, we've seen that. So it's good to hear that some of these companies that you're working with are have a different attitude as to, you make a claim, we're going to resolve it as quickly as possible to make sure that the people can move on in that regard.
Indeed. I'd like to ask you some questions about your profession, if you don't mind.
Sure, sure, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, I know that you are basically you can apply your legal profession in the US and Costa Rica, which is impressive. Um, I wanted to ask you for curiosity, uh, what nationality have you helped or during all these years that came and stayed in Costa Rica? What are the main nationalities so far?
Oh yeah, that's a great question, because Costa Rica attracts not just North Americans, but people from all over the world. And what I would say is the number one continues to be the United States. Number two, I would say Canada. We do have a lot of Germans, a lot of French, a lot of Italian, and from South America, I would say Argentina, Colombia are probably the two biggest groups that settle here in Costa Rica. But I was looking the other day at the statistics from immigration, and you start seeing a bunch of countries that before we never saw anybody from those countries. So if I look at the list of people that are getting the residencies approved from the records of immigration, I mean, there's more than 50, 60 countries already living here and being represented here in Costa Rica. So it's growing. The word is spreading out more. And so I think the number of interest of people from other countries, especially like, Eastern Bloc countries now, we're starting to see, people from Hungary, people from Poland, people from Eastern Bloc countries look at, hey, we're, Costa Rica. Yeah, let me look at that. And there's interest growing.
And what's the process of all these countries you mentioned? What's the process of getting a residence? Are the fees in Costa Rica similar to other Central American countries? I believe maybe Panama is the only competition in Central America. But overall, Costa Rica, I know they have a big tradition, a lot of experience in welcoming people, and they have a very, very strong um, tourism infrastructure. I think is one of the top-notch tourism infrastructure, and I think that's one of the reasons that people come. But how long it takes all this process to be legally living in Costa Rica?
Okay. Yep. Basically, I mean, you're right. I mean, Costa Rica was a pioneer in development of the tourism industry, and it was also the pioneer in what's called the Pensionado Rentista program. A lot of people don't know, but that program started in Costa Rica in the 1970s. So the first wave of American expats that came to Costa Rica were back, in the 70s under the Rentista program, which has remained pretty much the same now. In other words, if you want to come as a rentista, all you have to show the government is that you have a pension, lifetime pension of $1,000 or more per month, and then that qualifies you for a pensionado rentista. So very, very straightforward program. And as I mentioned, that's been around for many, many, many years. And then the other options we have is rentista for people that don't have a pension. Then they can apply for a rentista residency, and by showing $2,500 a month in income. And finally, the other program that's very popular now is the investor residency. So all you have to invest is $150,000. So if you buy a condo, if you buy an investment property that you do an Airbnb, any real estate investment, and 150,000 is going to get you residency. Those are the three most popular programs that we work in Costa Rica.
I think those programs are very attractive because I know for a fact that the Caribbean residency programs are more expensive. I know definitely Portugal is $500,000 as far as I know. So I think 150K is really, really attractive for a country that is so stable and it's a very pleasant country to be in. You have great beaches and a lot of expat population. People also go to countries that have a lot of nationalities. It attracts people as well, right?
I mean, you're absolutely right, because it just makes the market more fluid, right? So there's people coming in from all different countries. I think just American expats right now, it's got to be over 75,000 in Costa Rica, maybe more.
Wow.
So it's up there, and becoming more popular, because like as I mentioned when we were talking before, I think it's a country where they feel comfortable, right? So they arrive in Costa Rica. They see a lot of the things that they can see in the States. The people are very friendly. I think Costa Rica, as you mentioned, because of the tradition in tourism. For many years, the Costa Ricans have been accustomed to welcoming and treating foreigners in a very friendly and open way. So I think that makes people comfortable. So I'd say that the weather, to me, has one of the best climates. I mean, I'd hate to say the world, but I've traveled around, and every time I come back, I live in the Central Valley of San Jose, and my temperature here is 75, 80 year round, with very little humidity up here in the Central Valley. So to me, it's the weather, the climate's just fabulous in Costa Rica. So you combine, easy way to get residency, great weather, the people treat you right, a lot of green and nature. So I think it's a good combination. And then we throw in the fact too that Costa Rica only taxes territorial. So if you show up here in Costa Rica with a big amount of wealth, Costa Rica is not going to touch it. It only taxes income earned within Costa Rica. So that's another big plus. And that's why in the past, we attracted a lot of very wealthy individuals from South America. So the first wave we saw, for example, when there was conflicts in Colombia, we saw the very wealthy, I'm talking about the rich class of Colombia, move to Costa Rica. They would live here, have their families here, and then they would go back and work. So anytime there's instability in South America, they come to Costa Rica to find that safe haven, where they can live and be, our typical word here is tranquilo.
I think I mean, also the political aspect of Costa Rica, as far as I remember, it was peaceful political environments. I know there are elections in Costa Rica every 4 years or something like that, but I never heard about an issue. And that's something that it's the envy of any country in the world, that everything is done the right way. There is mutual respect in the political arena, and people get attracted to that. In addition to what you mentioned about the favorable tax policy and the environment, the people, the climate, the weather, everything else, it's great.
As a Costa Rican, I was born here. I was very impressed with the integrity and transparency of the election system. I mean, it's just very well done. And you're right. That's why it's led for peaceful transfers of power and peaceful democracy for many years. And we don't have an army either. So that's another
Yeah, I know.
plus. We
It's
focus,
amazing.
I think they tend to focus all the funding on medical care, and education, you know. And well, that brings us to another point too that we can discuss now that we're discussing medical is, you know, as you know, Costa Rica has a dual system, right? So, which most expats and locals as well. I mean, we use the two-tier system, right? So we have a public healthcare system where you pay into the public healthcare system, and when you get residency here, it's mandatory. You have to pay into that system, whether you're going to use it or not, but you have to pay into it. And then it's available to you. But the preference is to be able to use the private hospitals, right? So the public system is not going to cover you if you want to go to the top three private hospitals in Costa Rica, where you're going to get, you know, faster service, the doctors of your choice, and probably the top equipment available in the country. So for that, you would have to have some type of private insurance or pay out of pocket, right? The doctor services are not too bad as far as hourly wages, but you know, the hospitals can be, the private hospitals can get pricey. So
It's
definitely,
getting there. Yeah.
definitely recommend some type of insurance, even if you have to end up in a private hospital in Costa Rica, because it's not as cheap as it used to be. Never like the United States, of course, but still, you know, it could put a big dent in your pocket.
Yeah,
Getting
yeah.
access to a doctor that's reasonable.
Yeah, I think you have a good point. I mean, we had some cases in Panama, and I think Panama and Costa Rica are very similar, probably in GDP per capita.
Yeah.
And the hospitals there are not cheap. They're getting very close to the pricing in the US. They're not there yet, but they're very high quality as well, like in Costa Rica.
But yeah, it's not unusual to get a, you know, a 15 to $50,000 bill in a hospital here. So it's, you know, it's not like what it was 20 years ago where, you know, a
A couple of thousand.
couple of thousand, you'd be ready to go. You know, now it's like, whoa. Of course, a similar procedure, you know, 20 grand here probably costs you about 100 grand in the States, right? So
Yes.
perspective, but I think it's wise for people that are moving here to talk to somebody like yourself that can, you know, guide them and show them what options are available. Because even if you end up in the hospital here in Costa Rica, and as we spoke before, if you're between 40 and 50, you don't have Medicare, well, you're gonna have to have some kind of insurance.
And if somebody from overseas is interested in your services, obviously in guiding them to live in Costa Rica, you offer a consultation by Zoom before, and you explain the process of doing all that.
Sure, absolutely. I offer a free consultation. So, you know, they can go to my website. I've got a calendar on there. They just book a 30-minute free consultation, and I'll go over your residency or your plans to move to Costa Rica, and then based on your requirements, and I'll just give you a quote for the services. And we generally charge flat fee services. Very, you know, try to be completely transparent. Here's what it's going to cost. And wherever possible, we just stick to flat fees. There's also an interesting fact that many of viewers might not be aware is that a lot of our economy here is based on now on services. So we used to be an agricultural country, shifted over to services. And a lot of those services are focused in the free trade zones here in Costa Rica. And coincidentally, talking about medical, you know, Costa Rica is one of the biggest suppliers of medical devices to the United States. So we have companies now that have set up in Costa Rica, and this has been going on for, I would say, 15 years. We have companies like Baxter. We have Johnson and Johnson just opening a new facility. So a lot of the medical devices that you're getting placed in your body in a U.S. hospital are manufactured here in Costa Rica, which a lot of people might not know that.
It's good to know. Next time I'll be hospitalized, I'll think about pura vida.
Exactly. What's going in your body? It's probably made here, huh?
So that's an interesting point because it's not only for people who wants to retire, but you can help also companies to establish themselves, foreign companies and foreign nationals that are really interested in the human capital in Costa Rica. So that's another, basically another angle to look into Costa Rica as well, right?
You're right. As these big companies settled in, Then what we saw is that the smaller companies that supply them started coming to Costa Rica as well, right? Okay, a big company comes in, and then we see 5 or 6 smaller companies that worked with them for many years come in and set up in Costa Rica as well to be close to that big one. And they set up generally in the free trade zones. Now, the benefit of the free trade zones is that they can set up there and there's no tax on the revenue they make. So they just manufacture and then they export. None of it stays in the local market. It's strictly for manufacturing and then shipped back to the US. But what they do is create great employment opportunities. So any Costa Rican working at these facilities tends to earn wages that are much higher than the national average that these companies.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
In the free trade zone.
The free trade zone right now, if you got an engineering background and can speak English, there's a lot of jobs available. I think Johnson & Johnson is about to inaugurate a huge facility in Grecia, brand new free trade zone.
Yeah, I learned a lot from this conversation with you. I just realized that you are a manufacturing hub, and a big one.
Yeah.
So kudos to Costa Rica.
Gabriel, thank you so much for sharing all this valuable information for our clients here in Costa Rica and for people that are considering moving here to Costa Rica. And, my advice to anybody considering moving to Costa Rica or anywhere in the world is, look, sort out your medical insurance. It's very important. Don't wait until you're in country and then something happens and then it's too late. So my recommendation, contact Gabriel and have him sit down with you and sort out these medical questions for you. Gabriel, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Roger, for this opportunity. And it was great also to learn a little bit about your profession. I think it's a very noble profession to help people, guiding them to move and get installed in this great country of Costa Rica. And like you say, pura vida. I mean, I've been to Costa Rica many times, and I love this country. It's a great country.
Well, glad to hear that. And come on down whenever you want and visit us
I
again.
will. I will do it again.